Did you know that this pizza shouldn't exist? Yes, because it goes against everything we have been told about how to make, but especially how not to make homemade pizza. Dough made with powerful mixers, with many hours of leavening, using premium flours, and above all, cooked in ovens capable of reaching 500 degrees Celsius. Forget all this because today I'll show you how to make pizza without special tools, ready in 3 hours and baked in a home oven without a baking stone. You'll have no more excuses. You will be able to make the pizza you always wanted, even if you think you are a disaster in the kitchen, because this is the truly foolproof pizza. To make 4 pizzas, you need 520 grams of 00 flour, weigh 350 milliliters of fresh tap water, but if you're making the recipe in summer, I recommend using cold water from the fridge, 9 grams of salt, and 5 grams of fresh yeast or 2.5 grams of dry yeast. If you're not sure how to weigh, I'll leave a link in the description for a precision scale that costs less than $10 or €10, so you can weigh them if you want. As I promised, the preparation is foolproof, and anyone following the recipe will be able to succeed. Crumble the yeast into the flour and mix with a fork. Now add the salt and mix again. We complete the first phase by pouring in the water. With the help of a fork or wooden spoon, start mixing until the water is completely absorbed. This operation is simple and quick, and you'll really only need a couple of minutes. You don't need to knead, just make sure no flour remains at the bottom of the bowl. Don't worry if the dough is ugly, dirty and bad. It's perfectly normal, but it's also the secret behind this very easy dough. At this point, you can cover the dough and let it rest for 20 minutes. In the meantime, like this video, because if you exceed 1000 likes, in another video I'll show you how to make it in a mixer without complicating your life. So, after 20 minutes, as if by magic, the dough has remained as ugly as before, but notice that now it's extensible and easy to handle. Pour it onto the table and make folds like this. Pull, cover, and turn the dough. Repeat this a couple of times until the dough has reached a less mushy consistency. If it's not softer, close the dough with the pirlatura technique. That is this technique where you slide the dough towards you to ensure a sort of twist that will make the dough tougher. Continue until the dough has more silky appearance, but without trying to be perfect by endlessly pulling. In fact, the surface could tear if subjected to too much stress. Now, use the bowl to cover the dough and let it douse for about 10-15 minutes. After this time, the dough has definitely relaxed. And this, I assure you, will be a determining factor for the lamination phase. Spread the dough by pulling it as if it were a kind of blanket until it has reached a size more or less like this dough here. Don't worry if it should tear during this operation, it's normal. At this point, you need to make 2 folds. Starting from the right edge, grab the dough and fold it towards the center. Repeat the same thing by grabbing the left edge. The concept remains the same for the lower and upper edges, which you should slightly elongate and fold towards the center. Close the dough with the usual pirlatura, and even in this case, you'll spend little more than a couple of minutes doing this operation. And cover the dough for the last time, but only for 5 minutes, just enough time to let it relax a bit. At this point, the dough will be ready for cutting and waiting. As the only tool, I use a dough scraper, but in its absence, help yourself with a knife that doesn't cut, as there are many usually in the kitchen. Make sure to cut the dough into 4 equal parts, weighing about 220 grams each. The technique for making the dough balls is not different from how we did the folds earlier. Grab a flap and bring it towards the center. Repeat this operation 3 or 4 times until we have a ball. Then tighten the bottom of the ball with the so-called tuppo, which is a Neapolitan word, to consolidate it. Don't tighten too much, otherwise the ball will be difficult to stretch, and this is one of the secrets to keep in mind. Put the balls in containers like these IKEA ones. I also recommend putting a drizzle of oil to remove the balls more easily after a few hours of leaving. If you don't have containers, don't despair. I see you're already despairing. You can use a large enough tray to keep the balls separate. The important thing is to cover the tray with some plastic wrap, but not too tight. I mean, you don't have to make a cast for the balls. Otherwise, they flatten during leavening. And now, let the ball rise, and you'll see that within 3 hours or even less, they'll be nicely puffed up and ready to become delicious pizza. Look how beautiful they are. And now, since you don't have expensive ovens capable of reaching temperatures that not even Mount Vesuvius can, I'll show you how to make the most of your home oven and get around the limit of 250 degrees Celsius or 482 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll do it with the infamous pan grill combo method that I have already shown on this channel back to 2015 and beyond. However, I've updated the method a bit to make it even more performant, simple, but above all, economical to achieve, because we can do it without preheating the oven for a long time before cooking the pizza. You don't believe it? Wait and see. To start, move the rack to the highest part of the oven and place the drip pan on it. This will be this kind of low tray. Make sure there's a maximum of about 3 cm of distance between the drip pan and the oven's heating element. Try flipping the drip pan if needed to reduce the distance, just as I did. This trick allows us to create a sort of optimized chamber for the pizza, and this, given its reduced dimensions, will reach the right temperature in very little time. I'm telling you, with this trick here, I just saved you about $5, €5, so at the very least you should write me a nice comment on how your pizza turned out. Select the static oven function and set the temperature to 180 degrees Celsius. Even if the oven can heat up to 240 degrees, its heating elements still reach much higher temperatures, and this, after all, is the reason why they sometimes become incandescent. So, the closer the pizza is to the incandescent heating element, and therefore at least 400 degrees, the less time it would take to cook, and the more it will resemble a pizza cooked in a high-performance oven. Don't believe it? And look at what the thermometer measures. My doubting Thomases. Look at it. Now, let's turn on the flame on which we'll heat our pan. As you can see, in addition to classic gas stoves, it works great with electric stoves and induction cooktops too. Maximum temperature for no more than 3 minutes, and if you smell a metallic odor, immediately lower the power because it means the pan has become particularly hot, like 280 degrees or thereabouts. Use a bowl with flour, better if it's remilled semolina, and put the dough ball in it. Give it a good flour bath and do as I'm doing now. Press the part between the edge of the dough and its center. Pick a round turner on the bowl. Now you can start pressing the center as well to widen the size of the pizza without using any particular technique. I grab the dough around the cornicione crust and place it on closed fists, rotating the pizza disc as if I were rotating a car steering wheel. This allows for quick stretching and keeping the pizza sides under control. If you can manage it, in the description I'll leave a link to the stretching methods you can use, including the upside down bowl method. The size of the pizza should not, of course, exceed that of the pan. At this point, gently lay the pizza on the pan, make it adhere to its edges or adjust the shape if it's not very round, helping yourself with your fingers, but be careful not to burn yourself because I don't want to get sued by anyone. Now cover with a lid and lower the flame or temperature to half. During this phase, let it cook until the cornicione crust begins to puff up and the first bubbles form in the center of the pizza. At this point, you can season it. The principle is simple. The more you abound in toppings, the longer it will take to cook and the crisper it will become. Since we want to imitate Neapolitan pizza, we'll have to limit the amount of ingredients to achieve the fastest cooking possible. So I add a spoonful of tomato sauce and spread it on the surface of the pizza. Sprinkle basil, some wool, some hand torn, practically everywhere. A bit of grated hard cheese as per the Neapolitan pizza regulations, and finally the mozzarella or fior di latte, whichever you have. A drizzle of oil, and we cover again with the lid. At this point, we return to the oven and switch the cooking to grill and raise the temperature to 200 degrees Celsius. This will allow the heating element to become incandescent in about a minute or so. Let's go back to the pizza. Check the bottom. If it's well cooked, then it's time to move it to the oven. Make sure the heating element is red before putting the pizza in the oven. If it's not, don't leave the pizza on the fire, otherwise it will burn. With the heating element red, put it in the oven without hesitation. Trick: put the pizza under the part of the heating element with the densest coils, the part with more electrical tubes, because it will be the hottest part of the heating element. And by the way, electricians, forgive me for simplifying too much. Close the grill and the door and raise the temperature to 220 degrees and start cooking. If it seems that the heating element is turning off or has turned off in the middle of cooking, raise the temperature to the maximum. This will allow the grill to become incandescent again and quickly return to temperature, thus cooking the pizza within the canonical 2 minutes. Everything is proceeding well, but we obviously need to turn the pizza for more even cooking. So we close everything and continue for another 20-30 seconds of cooking, and here it is. As you can see from the oven clock, less than 2 minutes have passed, since I put it in when it was already 21 past 4 and took it out at 23 past 4. I'd say not bad for a pizza that left it in 3 hours and cooked in home oven in 2 minutes. But how would it be inside? But above all, would it be good? I'd say not bad for a pizza leavened in 3 hours and cooked in a home oven in 2 minutes. The air bubbles are good wherever it's cut, and the bottom is very well cooked. But above all, the pizza falls like Neapolitan pizza, and the taste. I'll just tell you one thing, spectacular! And now I'll tell you. You have no excuses. You absolutely must make it. Especially if you think you are no good at these things, or you think it's necessary to have mixers and expensive and complicated ovens to make a respectable homemade pizza. Bye and see you next time!